Hi, my name is JKB and I'm back with another episode. Today on the show, I'm giving you my first-hand impression of the Nintendo Switch 2, all of the accessories including the Pro Controller and the camera, and of course, third-party and the star of the show, the first-party titles. So without, wasting any of your time, I'm just going to get this out of the way. When I first heard about the Switch 2, it was leaked. A lot of stuff was leaked. I think a lot of people agree with me that the hype of the Switch 2 was taken down a notch because we kind of learned about the system before it was revealed, and when it was revealed, unfortunately, it was a bit of a dud. A lot of people just said, there's the Switch 2. It's what we wanted. I'm not complaining about that. I'm very happy that we got what we got here, and of course, I'll talk about the power of the system and all of that later in the video, but at the end of the day, there's some problems that I see with this Switch 2 launch, and I'm going to be honest with you guys and honest with Nintendo Canada, who sent me to this event. It's just my opinion. It doesn't mean that I'm right about it. It just means that's how I feel about these things. So I wouldn't do a video like this and sugarcoat it. So thank you very much to Nintendo Canada. I'll say this right now, just to save face a little bit so I don't get blacklisted. But listen, do you buy a Switch 2? At this price, based on the performance that I've seen the system can achieve, absolutely. It's better than a Steam Deck. It's pushing the limits in many ways. If you think about the original Switch versus the PlayStation 4, that gap between the two systems was large. Now we're seeing a very small gap. We're talking about games that are getting very close to looking like PlayStation 5 games, but that's going to come down to the developers. The third-party developers really need to work on these games to make sure that they look and play the best that they can on the system. And unfortunately, at the event, I did see a few games from Warner Brothers Games and EA, so we're not really that surprised about this, but those games weren't running the way I would hope. Now, Capcom really nailed it out of the park with Street Fighter 6. And I will give credit to Project CD Red. They're doing something crazy with Cyberpunk, but I'll talk about that later in the video. The other thing I just want to talk about quickly here is that, this is the end of an era for video game collectors. Not many people are talking about this, but third-party support on the system physically are all game key cards. Now, if you don't know what game key cards are, I'll explain it super quick. They're basically physical games, just like you would buy a first-party game from the original Switch. The difference here is the data is not on the game card itself. When you put the game card into your Switch 2, it's going to download that and attach it to that card while it's in your system. You need that card in your system to be able to play the game, essentially making it a license. Kind of like a dongle when you get software. When you pull it out of your PC, it's going to be like, hey, where's the license to use this software? That's the world we're living in now. Now, there's some benefits to this. You can now trade these games off to your friends. The only difference is you just got to download them every time you get a new one. Now, the data stays on your system, of course, but you can't play that game again until you put that original game key purchase card into your Switch 2 again. So if you let your friend borrow it, you're not trading games that way. So you need to keep it. Now, the benefit to this is that you can now sell these games. So it's like, in a way, allowing you to trade and resell and borrow digital games. So I give them credit in that regard. It's kind of a step above what EA and, other companies have done in the past for some Switch games where you buy the game and essentially get a game download code in the box. So at least you're getting a Kart, but let's just be honest here. Is it going to work in 15, 20 years? Probably not. So at the end of the day, it's sad. There's an atmosphere over this that I'm not going to escape in this video, and it's that the end of video game collecting, at least for me, is here because with the original Switch, a lot of my library, I'd say 90% of it, is still going to be playable on a Switch console in 20 years. Can I say the same about the third-party support for the Switch 2? No, there's no guarantee any of that stuff will work. So that's just the the awful truth in this regard. Now, some people are not going to care about that. Some people are not really collecting these games the way I would do, or somebody like Johnny Millennium from Happy Console Gamer, or Gamester81, or any of the retro gamers here on YouTube. It's the end of an era, and no one is really making a fuss about it, and I don't mean to make a fuss about it, but Nintendo's going digital. And I'm not fully on board with this idea due to the fact that there's no guarantee the software will work in 20 years. Now, some people are going to be like, well, in 20 years, you could probably play these games in different ways. But the people saying that they're just not part of the same group as the people that collect. So I got to get that out of the way. Now, when I got to the event, it was an event. It wasn't the typical event that you go to like at Xbox or PlayStation, where they just have consoles there and there's some people talking and it's, it's more casual. This was, in all essence, a Nintendo event. When we walked into the door, there was people greeting us. Not a few people, hundreds of Nintendo employees just around the whole event, really hyping it up. And I can kind of appreciate that. I'm 44 years old, but I can imagine like a 7-year-old coming here with his dad and experiencing this for the first time. And it must have been magical for that child to walk in and see something like this. I can really put myself in the shoes of being 14 again and just reliving something like this. So I want to say thank you to Nintendo Canada again for really making this an event that, I'll probably never forget. You guys are going to call me a Nintendo fanboy, but I also have strong opinions on this show, so I'm not going to hide those as well. So let's get into the first thing I experienced, which was Mario Kart World, which was, it's a must-own. I'm not going to hide the fact. It's a must-own game. It is the system seller. It is the reason you buy a Switch 2. Is there another reason? Yes, Metroid Prime 4, which I'll talk about in a second, but Mario Kart World Tour, what can I say about it? If you take the last iteration of Mario Kart and you infused it with an open world racing game such as, say, Forza Horizon, that's what you're getting here. But then you can include games like Tony Hawk, because you can grind on rails and the side of the walls and the tops of roofs. You can do insane wall jumps. It's like you're kind of playing a Mario game mixed with Mario Kart now. There's a physics engine that's built into the game now that doesn't play like the old games. It's going to be very hard for me to explain this, but in the old games, when you would get hit with like a blue shell, you would simply fall to the ground and roll around, and it would take you out of the race for a second. Now, it's a little bit different based on which weapon is hitting you and how it's hitting you in terms of how hard it's hitting you. You're going to be bouncing all around the level and rolling over on the top of your head and going on two wheels. It's really crazy to experience this for the first time. So I'm a huge fan of all of the new weapons. Let me get into that. For instance, the Hammer Brothers are a staple of Super Mario Brothers from back in the day. Now, everyone knows who I'm talking about, hopefully, but those are the two characters that would throw the hammers in the first Mario game, and you'd have to, get under the bricks and attack them. But those hammers, those are a staple of Super Mario Brothers. So to see them in the game as a weapon, awesome, man. So you throw those ahead of you. They have a nice little curve that goes up into the sky and lands on top of your enemies as you're racing. You also can sort of do your bonus jumps. Now, if you've played Mario Kart, you know that any of the sort of obstacles in your way, a lot of them in terms of jumps and sort of like ramps, you can jump off of those and get a bit of a boost in the air or when you land. Now let's just get this out of the way, they've included a new combo system, which means that you can go from a drift out of a corner, jump up onto a rail, grind the rail while boosting the whole time, I should point out, and then jump from that rail to another rail to get another boost. Then you can wall jump, which means the cart is essentially sideways on the wall, driving on the wall, and then you could jump off that wall to another wall, and it actually goes into another aspect of this game that a lot of people haven't been talking about, but the game is, traditionally, the last game was, vertical because it had that sort of like hover effect where you could like hover on the side of the track and it would attach you to the track. They've kind of kept that in the game in a way with the wall jumping. So you're able to jump on the wall, but it kind of plays like a Mario game. So you're doing like the bouncing back and forth between the walls. And then when you jump finally off and you go back to the track, you finish off this sort of combo system with this airplane mode. The sides of your cart open up and 2 wings pop out, and this allows you to do tricks midair, which add to your bonus. When you land, you get another bonus, because that's how the game works now. It's all about chaining all of these jumps and grinds and slides and wall jumps together to get the most boosting effect. Now, to the original F-Zero GX players out there, they'll know back in the day in GX, you jump the track to be able to land on different speed boost pads on the ground. That's the same idea here. You want to go all over the level, and I'm talking not just horizontally, but vertically. You want to go up into the level because you're going to find tons of grinding on the rooftops, tons of pipes, and it just gets out of hand when you start to see how much you can do vertically in Mario Kart now. So getting that out of the way, there's lots of new obstacles in the tracks. For instance, I saw a Koopa driving a cannon that you could just drive into the back of the cannon and it would power boost you through, a quarter of the level. And it's like randomized. It's very impressive in terms of its graphics. We're talking about 24 players in knockout mode and online. I mean, knockout mode is something that I never thought we would have in Mario Kart. So let me explain this quickly. You've got an open world concept here, kind of like Forza Horizon, and you're able to go into any of the tracks and practice on them. But knockout mode introduces a new mode where you have to come into a certain position by the end of each race to stay within that race, and it just continues. Now, of course, I have a train that's ruining my audio right now, but I'm not going to stop because I'm on a roll here. Goddamn train! So you're driving with 24 players, and you have to come within the first, I think, like, don't quote me on this, but I think it was like you have to come within the first 18 players, and if you're outside of the 18 player bracket, you're knocked out. But if you continue, boy oh boy, this knockout mode is the reason why you want to play Mario Kart World Tour. It's incredible. When you're playing the original Mario Kart games and you have like one lap left, and you're trying to get to first place, and you're like begging for an amazing weapon or a power boost or whatever. Now the whole race for a good, I'd say 15, 20, 30 minutes, depending on how many tracks are in the knockout mode, because you go from track to track without stopping. No loading times, I should say, from the open world into any of the tracks. You simply wait for the players, and that's it. It throws you into the race. So in terms of loading times in Mario Kart, I was playing a demo that was designed just for the event, so I'm assuming I didn't really see the true, loading time of the game here, but from my understanding, there's really no loading times in Mario Kart World Tour. So I'm trying to think what else I could say about the game other than it's a must-own. If you're a fan of Mario Kart, you're going to be so excited for this game. It is the reason you buy this system. Visually speaking, boy oh boy, the days of Nintendo Fog draw distance are really over now. You're able to see the horizon in the distance. I should also say that this game reminds me of Breath of the Wild in a weird way. You're able to go up to some mountains sometimes and sort of, well, I should point this out. The right analog stick now lets you free move the camera. So that means you're able to look around your cart during the race, which is such a welcome mechanic in the game, because you're going to be wanting to look around at all the other players because the animation on these characters is incredible. I can't say enough about Mario Kart. I'm not going to waste the whole video here talking about it, or this will be a 50-minute video. I'm just going to say that, did I see a single thing wrong with Mario Kart or anything that I thought was like, okay? I would say like the inclusion of the food items to get the costumes is a little weird to me. Do I miss the customized vehicles? I don't think so. Not really. Because in this game, you can't customize them. You don't pick the tire and then like the frame of the vehicle or the wheels. You just pick a vehicle now. And in terms of the characters, there's tons. I'm not going to really get into that, but you know, basically everybody you know and love is there except Diddy Kong. I didn't see him. He's missing from 2 games now. I don't know what's going on with that. So basically all of the characters you know and love are here in the game. It's a blast to play. I can see you easily putting hundreds and hundreds of hours into this. Now, of course, let me talk about the price of the game. A lot of people are not very happy with this $90 price tag. Do I think it's worth that price? I'm going to be honest, based on what I saw in the open world, it is so big. There's so much to do in the game. It's hard to compare this game to other games out there like Grand Theft Auto 5 and how much time you're going to get out of these games like Red Dead Redemption or any of those massive games. I'm not going to compare them. I'm just going to say, do I think it's worth $90? I don't mind paying the price because I've seen what the game has to offer. I know a lot of people are going to have trouble paying that much for these games. And when it comes to Donkey Kong Bonanza, which I'm going to talk about next, the price tag on that in Canada is $100. Do I think that game's worth $100? I don't know about that. So let's talk about it. Let's move on to Donkey Kong Bonanza. What do I have to say about this game? Am I hyped about it as much as Mario Kart? Absolutely not. The demo, I would say, doesn't do a great job of really expanding upon what the gameplay mechanics are going to be in this game. I'm still very confused about it. I'm not necessarily out of the running of wanting to buy this game, but based on the demo, guys, I would say that I'm not sure what the game is supposed to be. Donkey Kong does look incredible in terms of his animations. The facial animations on Donkey Kong are the best I've ever seen in a Nintendo game, period. Incredible. Now, I should also say Mario Kart's animations are also incredible too, but Donkey Kong Bonanza, what's it about? You collect bananas. That's all you do in the demo. Now, I can't really speak much more on the platforming or what else you do in the game. The demo was really limited to just smashing stuff and collecting bananas. While that was fun for about 3 minutes, I just felt that there needs to be something here that's past that. And unfortunately, the demo ended just before I got to the second level in the game to be able to say, like, yeah, platforming opens up and there's enemies and it's a lot of fun to play. But just based on what I played, it's one of those things where I need more time with it. Do I want to have more time with it after what I played? Absolutely. The only thing I would say, though, is the camera needs some work big time. I'm sure that they'll probably work on it before the game is released, but man, oh man, a lot is going on. And it's very confusing and you have no idea what you're looking at for most of the demo because you're underground, think Minecraft here, and the camera is stuffed in this hole and sometimes it's just outside of the hole that you've created based on, you pounding your way into the ground or into a wall and creating a cave or upwards. The camera's sort of trying its best to show what's around, but at times you have no idea what you're looking at. So camera-wise, needs some help when you're underground, guaranteed. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So overall, I'm excited to play the game when it comes out. I will be reviewing it on the show, but there's not too much to say about it. Was it a little disappointing? Yeah. I mean, I was assuming that we would see some of the great platforming that Nintendo is known for, and I really didn't see any of that. And it's a Donkey Kong game. You would assume that that would be what they would show off in the demo, but no, they really just showed you the mining, or I would say not even the mining, it's just the ability to smash the whole world up. And once you do that once, you're just looking for stuff. That's all it was. So I'm just being honest. So hopefully the game comes out and has a little bit more to do, and then, it would justify that gigantic price tag. Now let me talk about the one and only Metroid Prime. A lot of people want to know about this one. Graphically speaking, I would say it's above par when it comes to the remake that was on the Switch. Of course it looks better than that. We're talking about higher frame rate, 4K 60, 120. Handheld mode is going to be insane, but unfortunately I didn't get the opportunity to see that at the event. I was playing, I believe, in 4K 60. Maybe it was performance mode. They didn't have really good details on exactly what the system was doing at each of the booths, but based on what I saw, it looked incredible. We're talking about Samus in a suit that fully is realized in a way that you've never seen before. Just from the texture work alone and the reflections, it really makes that suit feel heavy. It feels like she's in this giant metal armor, you know, and it's like overpowering, and she's so strong in it, and you get that vibe. That's something I would say you got in the past, but not like this. Due to the reflections and everything, it really, really looks good. So in terms of the graphics, I'm very impressed with it. So I'm excited to really see some of the open world aspect of the game. What I experienced was the same demo that you saw in the treehouse. That included some voice acting that was slightly cheesy, which is fine with me. You know, that's how these games have always been. You know, they've always been sort of a comic book way of storytelling, and having voice acting in here now really does fit. So there's nothing negative to say about that. I don't think I have any negatives to say about this game. It's exactly what we all asked for. I wouldn't say it's going to blow your mind. It's not like it's super innovative. The only thing I'll talk about right now that I could say is sort of an innovation to Nintendo at the moment, that would be the mouse functionality. How does it work? I'll just get it out of the way quickly. It works perfectly. It's super sensitive. You can put it on your knee, or you could put it on top of a desk. You could hold the Joy-Con on an angle. It doesn't need to be exactly flat on the desk to work, because it works just like a mouse. But because it's much smaller, you can angle it slightly to the right or to the left, so you don't have to worry about doing it on your knee. It will work on sort of round surfaces as well, you know, as long as they're big enough that the sensor isn't like, you know, past a 45-degree angle and not getting the contact to the surface. It'll work fine. Now, the only thing I'll say about that felt a little weird is that Samus turns into her sphere mode with the X button, which is on the right controller. And when you're holding this right Joy-Con, I should call it, you are holding the left side of it with your right hand, of course. Now, try to, you know, visualize this. You're trying to hit the X button, but you're also trying to hold the Joy-Con towards your three fingers, kind of like this, right? You're holding it with your thumb towards it. Now, when you move your thumb away, you kind of let go of the Joy-Con a little bit to hit the X button. So this is like this moment where the Joy-Con's like floating kind of in your hand. You're kind of pushing it. You're not holding it. And it's a little awkward. Not going to lie about that. Now, will you get over that? Absolutely. Can you change the layout? Absolutely. Do you want to play the game with a Pro controller? Probably. Do you want to play with this mouse mode? Dude, it's awesome once you get the hang of it, but there's a learning curve. So overall, the mouse mode works incredibly well. I'm very impressed with Metroid Prime 4. And it's definitely, I'll say this, if you're a hardcore Metroid fan, get ready, because you're finally getting your dream Metroid game. This is exactly what we all asked for. So, looking forward to it. Now, let me talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 versions of some of the original games. I'll do it super quick. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom both look absolutely stunning in 4K 60 on these amazing screens that they had there. You know, I can't get around this, if you've noticed. I gotta replay both of them. But there's a bit of a controversy. The original game for the Switch 2 does not come with the DLC, and there's a lot of people upset about that, me included. I think it's a bit silly that you're selling this enhanced version of the game for Switch 2 without the DLC added on. You're making us pay on top of that. It doesn't make sense. The game's 8 years old, guys. I don't know what to say about that. I will suggest this. Since Mario Kart is a must-own on this, you need Nintendo Online services to be able to play that online, obviously. So you're going to have that anyways. And these enhancements for the 2 Zelda games are included in the online subscription. So that's one way of getting around it. Most of you probably already have the game, so you're going to just download this and not worry about it. To the people that have to pay for that copy, it's tough to recommend doing it that way. So Tears of the Kingdom didn't have any DLC, so yeah, it's the price on these things is a little weird, but you know, Nintendo just they want to respect, as they say, their intellectual properties and the artists that created them, and not really undersell their work. And I can respect that, but I doesn't necessarily mean I agree with the prices of some of these games that are 8+ years. So that's just my opinion. It's up to you guys to decide how you want to play these games. And of course, you know, it's a tough situation because I get sent to these events and I want to love everything, but I have a duty to you guys to tell you when things aren't shaping up the way I feel they should be. So that's another case of Nintendo just doing Nintendo things. And that's just the way it is. If you don't like it, you don't buy it. If you like it, you buy it. That's the end of the line with that. Now, let me say this. Mario Party Jamboree with the camera, I'll make this short. Is it just a Kinect device? In a way, you could say it is. But I would say that Nintendo's found a way to implement that Kinect type camera, the webcam, in a way that only Nintendo could do. The mini games, I had a blast playing them. You know, things where you're like jumping in the air and punching bricks or screaming. Everything we saw at the Treehouse event, that's in there as well. So that is a really good thing you might want to look into if you have a family of 4, or you have kids and they bring their friends over. 7-year-olds to 14-year-olds are going to love that camera accessory. Now, the good news is there's a lot of compatible webcams that you could just plug into the dock, I believe, using USB, typical webcams. So I wouldn't worry about buying the Nintendo brand of web camera. I guess they're going to have a list of what you can use. So we'll see how big that list is when we get closer to the launch of the system. But overall, do I recommend you get the camera? It's going to come down to, again, if you have a family and if you have kids, that is what that's made for. So hardcore gamers are going to kind of look at that and go, nah, not for me. It's a Kinect thing. I'm not going to do that. Silly. But let me just bring up one thing. Mario Kart World Tour also utilizes the camera, which puts a live avatar of your face over the racers in the track. So I will say this, like trash talk in the game is going to change drastically with these cams, because you can now essentially drive up to somebody after you've taken them out with a blue shell, and you can look at them in the eyes and be like, I am the best driver. All right, so without keeping this video 400 hours long, let's talk about the third-party support. I played Cyberpunk, and I gotta say this. Again, like I said before, we're really pushing the limits of what the system can do in terms of graphics. Now, do I think Project CD Red's going to fix the performance of this game before it's out? I hope so, because it's running between, I'd say, 24 frames to 30 frames per second. It looks absolutely stunning, but there's moments where it's very muddied, sort of like mud is like thrown on the lens of the camera in the game. And that's only when you're kind of like at a distance and you're really trying to focus on an enemy really far away. You're dealing with a little bit of anti-aliasing issues that are kind of present in a lot of the third-party games. So I'll get that out of the way now and just say that, do I think that this is a powerful system? Absolutely. And the statement I'll make on that is I think it's going to come down to the devs to really utilize the technology in the Switch 2, because if you look at what Nintendo can do with this, it's powerful, guys. I'm talking Xbox Series S, between an S and a PlayStation 5. That's what I personally saw. And when you play Cyberpunk, if you have it on PC, there's no reason to play it on the Switch unless you want to play it in portable mode and take it on the go. I didn't play it in portable mode, so I can't talk about the performance in that regard, but I could say on a large TV, it's tough to play, man. The frame rate's just just makes it clunky, guys. So turning off motion blur did help a little bit. I turned it off in the menu. But in closing with that, I'm impressed, man, with the graphics of it. It looks stunning. If only they can get the performance up in frame rate, man. If they could just get it up a little bit more. Wow, what an achievement within, I don't even think they've been working on it that long, but I'm sure that they're going to support it moving forward. And I'll also give them a shout out, ever since the game came out and it was a bit of a disaster, we all know that, they've been trying to get their rep back up. And one of the cool things they're doing is they're basically the only third-party game that has all of the data on the cart when you buy it. So if you buy a complete version, you could still play it in 20 years. They're not taking it away from you. So huge shout out to CD Projekt Red for making that happen. Now, let me just say this quickly. EA with Split Fiction, 2-player co-op, single screen, frame rate, guys, man. We're talking frame rate here. Frame rate, I'd say 24 to 30 frames, dropping here and there. Does this mean the game's going to come out and have that issue? It's EA, so who knows? Moving on to Warner Brothers with Hogwarts Legacy, another issue, man. It is not what I wanted to see. I wanted to see better frame rates and lower quality visuals. That's what I want out of my games on this Switch, and unfortunately, we're going the other way. They're trying to push the limits on how good the game looks, and that's at a cost. That's at a cost of frame rate. So there's a fine balance that I see a lot of these devs sort of trying to achieve here when you talk about Street Fighter 6. It runs like a dream, 60 frames, no frame drops whatsoever. Graphically, to me, it looks pretty good for a handheld console. Obviously, you can't compare these to like a PlayStation 5 or the Pro. That's silly to do that. We're talking about a handheld console. Does it run better than a Steam Deck? I think it does. So I think a lot of the games actually run better than Steam Deck. In fact, yeah, it's more powerful than a Steam Deck. I'll get that out of the way right now. So we're talking third party still. And yeah, everything I saw third party just seemed like it was undercooked, except for Street Fighter. Street Fighter and Yakuza 0 stood out as these two golden, shining examples of what the system can do. Now, of course, these are older games, so yeah, it's probably easier to get those over onto the system and port it over, but third-party support here, guys, I'm not going to lie, is looking a little sad in terms of frame rate. I hope that these frame rates go up. If they don't, and we have to deal with what I saw there, then I don't know what to say. Like, somehow Nintendo has flawless frame rates in all of their first-party games, except Donkey Kong. I saw a little bit of a stutter here and there. Wasn't the end of the world, but, I'm sure that'll be optimized by the day it's out. But, yeah, these games, man, they need some heavy optimization before they come out, because these demos are not showcasing what the Switch can do. I know the Switch is super powerful, and I know that based on Mario Kart World. I know that based on Metroid Prime, that looks amazing. And of course, Donkey Kong. Kirby also looks incredible. So in closing here, let me talk about the Pro Controller for a second. There's not too much to say about it. It's typically exactly the same as the original. The D-pad does feel slightly better. I would say the original one was sort of like a little clunky, if you can use that term, or a little mushy. After a certain amount of time, in my opinion, the new one feels tighter. It feels great. No issues with that. It feels great. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not a huge fan of the white stripe on the front of it. I don't know why that's there. It doesn't really fit any of the other design of the system. It's a really odd choice. Other than that, the back buttons feel and work great. So you have two customizable buttons on the back of the Pro Controller now that allows you to assign any button to them. So that's perfect for these games, especially for Mario Kart when you want to put the items on there, and it's great. It also has the ability to plug in a headset now, so because of the game chat, of course, that's going to be a big deal for a lot of people here, especially for Mario Kart. That's awesome. That's going to be awesome. So do I think it's worth the price? Probably not. I think it's a little expensive at the price that they put it at, but again, who knows why it's at that price? Is it greed? I don't think so. Is it something else? Maybe. Is it greed? Maybe. I don't know, actually. I don't really know the answer to that. So let me know in the comments below if you're a fan of these new price points for all the accessories, because a lot of people aren't. So this has been a long video, and I appreciate you guys watching. And I wanted to make it shorter, but there's so much to talk about. I could go on for hours. There's a lot of things I'm skipping over here. So ask me in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer you guys. And if I get enough questions, I'll just do a video just based on the extra questions. So do I think it's worth buying on launch? Yes. Mario Kart is such an amazing experience, man. We're talking about the dream come true of Mario Kart fans out there. The open world isn't small. I mean, I would put it in line with like Breath of the Wild vibes. It's that big. It's massive. So there's a lot of content there. That is a system seller. I can see why it's bundled with the system. So if you're excited for Mario Kart, this is a banger. And when it comes to third party, I hope some of these things get fixed and they really work on the frame rate issues on some of these things. I'm sure, again, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, because of course it could just be the demos are old and they haven't updated them. So of course, that's how it always is at the events, right? You play some of these games, they don't run well, and then you play the official release and it runs spectacularly. So I'm not too worried about some of them, but EA and Warner Brothers, I'm talking to you guys. I hope you really take this seriously and fix what's going on with those demos. So I think I've covered as much as I could do. This is going to be like a 37-minute video. I appreciate everyone that tuned in for the whole thing. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry I talked this long, but I'm excited, man. I got my pre-order in, and of course, I got to announce again, I'm doing a giveaway. I got my hands on a second Switch, so I'll be giving away the bundle on the show in June. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. And again, if you have any comments or concerns about my looks and you want me to get a haircut and sound exactly like my grandma, you can put those in the comments below. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next episode of JKB in about 7 months. Thank you. Love you guys. See you on the live show.